Golf's first major of the season is nearly upon us, and we're a week away from the Masters on CBS. Scottie Scheffler become the fourth repeat Masters champion and the first to do it since Tiger Woods in 2001 and 2002. Augusta National will once again host the Green Jacket ceremony. There are several storylines this year, including Rory McIlroy's major drought and that career Grand Slam. Scheffler and McIlroy are the clear betting favorites to win this one. Scottie coming in at plus 460. Rory at plus 650. Then there's a steep drop off. The next closest one is Colin Morikawa at 15 to 1. All right, let's bring in Patrick McDonald to talk Masters. All right, so we're a week away. And let's start with Scottie Scheffler. Didn't win in Houston, made it close with Min Woo Lee. I guess the good news, though, Patrick, is he's playing good golf heading into Augusta here. Where are you at with Scottie?
I think at a 9 out of 10. I would say if last year 10 out of 10, 2022 a 10 out of 10, just a 9, because there's some things in his game that make me a little bit uneasy, Tommy. And I saw the putter take a really nice step there in Houston. He was 61 for 63 inside 10 feet. That is ridiculous for Scottie Scheffler. It's the best mark of his career. But the one issue I had was kind of with that iron play. And it's not been Scottie Scheffler-like so far this season. I say this as a guy who hasn't finished outside the top 25. He has a number of contention runs, almost winning at Torrey Pines and almost winning at Houston as well. But we know Scottie Scheffler as the king of hitting his approach shots pin high. And I think a great example of where that shortcoming almost came in was on that 72nd hole there at Houston. I mean, he came up almost 20, 30 yards short of that pin. And you look just the year prior when Steven Yeager, he had a very similar shot coming down the stretch there, and he had it inside 5 feet, ended up missing the putt. But the point still stands. So for Scheffler, everything is, I think, working in his favor from the intangible aspect, right? We talked about how much that's going to weigh on Rory McIlroy, but I really like where he is coming into this tournament from a mental perspective. He's already gone through a defense at Augusta National. He's going to know what the Champions Dinner is like. He's going to know what all the extracurriculars are like leading up to the week. He has Teddy Scott on the bag. Teddy Scott's won 4 Masters, more than Scottie himself, right, with 2 with Bubba Watson. But it's that iron play in particular. He is outside the top 5 in the world so far this season. That has always been Scottie Scheffler's bread and butter. And so if there's one area, one chink in the armor right now, I think it's that approach play.
All right, so we'll look out for that next week. Speaking of Rory McIlroy, since you brought him up, you know, he still has that major drought, nothing since 2014. Augusta's been a bit of a bugaboo for him, but he's also coming in this year to this tournament better than he's ever had before with a couple of wins, AT&T and the Players. Rory McIlroy, what are you excited about with him? What still gives you some pause?
Oh boy, Tommy. I mean, that is a loaded question. I think I'm excited for Rory McIlroy because we haven't seen this well-balanced nature in his game perhaps ever. We haven't seen the course strategist like we've seen Rory McIlroy at TPC Sawgrass, at Pebble Beach, where he didn't need the driver all too often, right? He kind of just navigated through those golf courses very effectively without his A game at certain points. So that gives me a lot of optimism. The flighted wedge shots, the softer golf ball, where he's able to put that ball underneath the wind. There was a moment in last year's Masters. He was on top of the hill on number 11. Scottie Scheffler, Rory McIlroy playing next to each other. It's a very difficult Friday. Scheffler hits this flighted 7-iron to the middle of the green, and Rory dumps it in the water. And it was like right then and there, you're like, that is the difference between these two guys. It's as simple as that. And it seems like Rory McIlroy has really gotten that part of the bag in order, which is huge. As for what's bad is it's going to be so hard for him. I think it's a double-edged sword, this hype, right? He's going to be hearing it. This week alone is going to be difficult, trying to block that out. Going to Augusta National, facing the press on Tuesday is going to be difficult. Trying to sleep on Wednesday is going to be difficult. And the thing, Tommy, about Rory McIlroy this past decade is he has not played his way into the Masters. He has shot 1 sub-70 round in the first round in his 10 prior attempts at the career Grand Slam. The one time he broke 70, guess what? He was in the final group on Sunday with Patrick Reed in 2018. He's broken 70 once on Friday also. And because of that, it gets more and more difficult as you get into this tournament. But Rory McIlroy has to play himself into the tournament first.
Maybe need some kind of private car service or rideshare issue like he had recently, $800, $900 Uber to get him all his equipment that he has fit for Augusta. If we go a little macro here with the game of golf, we've had the last 7 major championships won by an American, and we had, of course, Xander Schauffele hit a couple, so 6 essentially American golfers dominating the scene right now. What do you make of it? Is it just sort of a trend that we're seeing right now, or do you have something else that you can kind of pinpoint it at?
I think it's just kind of one of those things where you flip a coin and it's heads 5 or 7 times in a row, right? Patrick Cantlay talked about that in regards to the Ryder Cup. I think that's one of the spells we're going through. But if you look at the game of golf right now and the way it's trending, it's big hitters, right? And you see that with Xander Schauffele gaining a ton of speed these past 2 seasons and leading to major championship success. We see that with Bryson DeChambeau, the couple iterations of him from 2020 and, of course, last year as well, almost winning at Valhalla and then winning there at Pinehurst #2. So I think it's just one of those stretches. I think there's a lot of good European, a lot of good international players rounding into form there ahead of the Masters, excuse me. Jon Rahm, someone who I think is going to come into this year with a huge chip on his shoulder with how poor he played in 2024. Shane Lowry is a guy who must love this major championship rotation this year, holding the 54-hole lead at Oakmont a few years back, winning at Royal Portrush, having figured out Augusta National as well. And so I think it's just one of those things where the Americans are getting hot right now, and I wouldn't be surprised if that changes shortly, even next week.
You mentioned Jon Rahm, last guy to do it the Masters 2 years ago. He's up there with Ludwig Åberg as well in terms of the betting board at 17-1. That year in 23, actually Brooks Koepka had the final round lead before Jon Rahm came back and boat raced him. Also with Brooks Koepka, one of 3 guys with 5 majors but no green jackets. What's it going to take for Brooks?
He's got to figure out the putter, Tommy. It was really bad in 2024. Brooks Koepka has made 8 straight cuts in the major championships, which is great, but that's not what Brooks Koepka wants. He has 0 top 20s in his last 5, and it's been primarily because of that putter. The ball striking me off the tee, the iron play. It's looked good enough for Brooks Koepka to contend in major championships, but he was going through a few different models. He wasn't quite comfortable. He settled back on his gamer this year. He's had some solid success there on Live Golf. Just finished runner-up to Joaquin Niemann there in Singapore. Had a top 10 in Adelaide as well. So I'm really keening in on him this week at Trump National Doral for their tournament. I think that's a great tune-up for these guys. We've seen a lot of crossover with Bubba Watson, Adam Scott, Patrick Reed, all winning there at Doral and winning at Augusta National as well. So I think for Koepka, it all comes down to that putter. But, Tommy, we all know he has a way of making those putts this time of year.
And let's finish off with the former Masters champion, Hideki Matsuyama, has a fantastic cut streak right now at Augusta. What stands out to you about what Hideki's able to do at Augusta?
I think come major championship season, and Augusta in particular, having an elite skill set can just raise your floor so much. And Hideki Matsuyama, for my money, is the best chipper and pitcher of the golf ball in the world. Better than Justin Thomas, better than Cam Smith, better than Patrick Reed. It just seems like this guy has every single shot that you need around the green. And at Augusta National, that obviously comes in handy. And it kind of is a perfect fit for Hideki, right? He's not the most accurate driver of the golf ball. The corridors there at Augusta National are pretty wide. You can get a little wild. His iron play, when it's hot, it is among the best in the world. We saw that in 2021, especially out of that rain delay when he just went nuclear there and pretty much won the Masters on that Saturday. And then with that short game, when that ball striking might go a little haywire, he can just keep himself afloat, keep making pars, take advantage of the par 5. So he's got 10, of course, at Augusta, 18 in major championships, and I think it really all comes back to that short game of his.
They always talk about in golf, model of consistency, and Hideki Matsuyama is certainly that, especially this time of year. Patrick, certainly appreciate it. Again, 1 week away from the Masters, and you've got picks. The Early Wedge has you covered. Scan the QR code and check them out however you listen to your podcast. You can also check them out on YouTube.
All right, so 1 hour down, 1 to go. Tommy, the
halfway all?
point
Oh,
to
yeah.
the show. And of course, we've talked a lot of college hoops, of course, but now we're going to transition and talk about the NFL coming up.
We have your draft needs with 2 of our draft analysts, and we're going to go through a lot of teams, so good chance your team will be on the other side of the break.